but I'll rob the grave. Death, become my blade once more. Carrying a cross and the hilt's already fading. Leather in my grip, I never miss my swing. River running red from the dead, escaping. Heaven or hell, take the land between. And I bear this weight that I'm under, and no force could tempt a kneel. I bend for honor only, no this seal is not real. This shattered will define a spirit burning and honest. My demons paralyzed, terrified. They branded sacrifice, so tarnished early and often. My fury justified. Sealed up my fate and read the embers. A scarlet taste, my blade remembers. Temper my crown, yeah, I wield what can't decay. No, feel the fury inside, try to bury my pride, but I'll rob the grave. My skin to stone, my flesh to onyx. This gravity is daunting. The poison breath, this blood of death cannot infect my conscience. Cause I've been here before, bloodstained wounds on altered doors. And I wish I was more, but I jail my doubts an errant sword, yeah. This shattered will define a spirit burning and honest. My demons paralyzed, terrified. They branded sacrifice, so tarnished early and often. My fury justified. I decide. Sealed up my fate and read the embers. A scarlet taste, my blade remembers. Temper my crown, yeah, I wield what can't decay. No, feel the fury inside, try to bury my pride, but I'll rob the grave.
And we are live. Hello to all you BC WrestlePod nerds out there and what has felt like an eternity, but welcome back to the Takedown Troupe review, your weekly TNA wrestling review show here on the BC WrestlePod YouTube, Twitch, podcasting network, conglomeration syndicate here on, anywhere and everywhere, apparently. I am one of your hosts, Mikey, and joining me this evening, I have missed him. But we have Papa also back into the mix. Will is here tonight, and I have missed him quite dearly. It has been so lonely and cold on these nights of wrestling reviews without you.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
I know. I'm gonna virtually hug you because I missed you. I need my Papa also to keep me warm at night.
Yeah, me too. It's getting cold here.
I know. I have to bring out the sweater because even though it's not as crazy cold in California, I live in a desert, so it's still pretty chilly outside. But the best remedy to a frozen exterior and interior is to talk about some hot-blooded wrestling. And I don't know if we quite got there with this episode of TNA, but there was definitely some highlights for sure. I am not gonna lie, I don't hate this build to Turning Point like I did last year. At least we have somewhat of a build to Turning Point.
True.
Yeah, Will was here for Turning Point and Final Resolution last year with like no build. It was a rough go.
It was rough.
Oh my goodness.
None of it made any damn sense.
And so I feel like some of the stuff makes sense, but we're also going to talk a lot about stuff. I was like, I feel like we skipped a couple of chapters with some certain things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh
no,
goodness.
this build up makes much more sense than the last build up. Did not make any sense.
That is very that is also very true. Oh my goodness. But before we get too far into this week's TNA episode with all its ups and downs, make sure you follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod. We're pretty much anywhere and everywhere. We have a Facebook, a Twitter, a Instagram, a TikTok. We have a Patreon. You can find our social medias all in one neat little place by downloading the Next Level app and searching up BC WrestlePod. We are pretty much everywhere. We also, and if you want to support the channel, you can buy some of our really fun merch ideas. We got a whole bunch of designs. We have our logos on t-shirts. We have our Squatchamania Runnin' Wild collection. We also had the 2 new editions that were added a couple of weeks ago in what I like to call our timeless classic collection that was inspired by a certain timeless one of AEW. And I love the saying that I put on the back that we are classy bitches here at BC WrestlePod. And of course, my personal favorite new collection, the Fight Collection. And no matter what happens, no matter the circumstances, no matter what is going on in the world, that we always have the power to fight for our rights and to fight back. So it is a design that is very special to me, and I hope that you enjoy it as well. So link in the description of this video below. But with that out of the way, now that the PR stuff is done, let's talk about some wrestling. Because we opened up this week's episode of TNA getting a recap of everything that has happened so far, especially in our Knockouts Championship division. And we opened up with a no disqualification match for the Knockouts World Championship. So this is our reigning Knockouts World Champion, Masha Slamovich, taking on the challenger of Miss Alicia Edwards. I'm going to be honest, Will, as soon as I saw this on paper, I'm like, I swear to God, TNA, if somehow Alicia walks out the winner of this, I might actually turn off my television and cancel the review.
Yeah, there was no way. No way. If they had done that, I too would have been like, no, I'm done. Bye.
But of course, I was like, yeah, good job, TNA. You did the right choice. This match, I mean, I love Alicia as a heel. I really, really do. But let's be all the way 100. And she knows that. I think Alicia knows this too. Her moveset is not as expansive as some others, as you know, is the nice way of putting it. I don't think she's bad, but she's really good at what she does for being a chicken S heel, so to speak.
Right. No, I agree. I agree. I think she's good as the mouthpiece at more so than an actual wrestler. Not that she's not a bad wrestler. Not that she's a bad wrestler. It's just that she's really, it's all about, knowing your skill sets. And her skill set is being the mouthpiece and like pissing everybody off. I mean, she's great at it. I mean, she really is. She's really good at it. She just irritates the crap out of me. And so, and that's, good for her. I mean, good job doing your job. And, the thing is when I saw this, I was like, oh, yay, I get to watch someone beat up Alicia Edwards. I was so excited. I was just like, oh, it's Masha Slamovich. This is going to be great to just watch Alicia get her ass kicked. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Nice
just
octave.
from that aspect. Thank you.
Oh, I loved it. I love the octave, and I love this match too. And I was just like watching Alicia Edwards get spiked with the package pile driver to have Masha retain the championship. I'm like, all is right in my world of wrestling. Masha Slamovich is slamming a bitch.
Seriously, like you do it, girl.
Oh my goodness. But of course, as we stated before, Masha Slamovich defeats Alicia Edwards. She is the winner of this. And leading into this week, it was either going to be Masha or Alicia facing against Jordan Grace at Turning Point. So now, by the end of this match, we know that it is Masha versus Jordan, round 2, which I'm super excited for. But like an M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong movie, as I like to call him, there's a twist, which we will talk about as we get later into the show. So I thought the match was a lot of fun. I knew exactly what this was going to be and exactly what it needed to be. And I loved it so much. But after the match, Tasha Steelz ends up attacking Masha from behind, but then Jordan comes out for the save. We have a stare down between Jordan and Masha, and the Knockouts World Title rematch is now set for Turning Point, as I stated below. But the twist will be talked about as we get later in the show. I'm just like, this is money. Just let these girls main event. I want this to main event Turning Point.
Yeah, you're not kidding. You know, and I also when they were doing their stare down, quote unquote, I love how they were smiling at each other. And not like a mwahaha, but like, hey, we're best buds. You know, it's like, hey, this is going to be a great match. I can't wait to do this with you, which I really enjoyed, which I love. I love the fact that they're actually friends, you know, and that their fights are friendly fights. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love the fact that they kind of respect each other, and I just love that. So when they were smiling at each other, I was just like, "Aw, I love both of you guys."
Oh, and as I'm like, I like it when we have kind of two faces facing each other, because it ends up being really well. But like we talked about during our Bound for Glory review as well, is that these two have worked together pretty much the last couple of years in TNA as opponents, and then behind the scenes they're really good friends, which means because they work together so much, they know each other inside and out, and they are able to do things that you have to have a certain level of trust of your quote unquote dance partner to be able to do the things that you're going to do, and then have them catch you in just in case. I'm excited for this rematch. We will talk more about what that all entails as we go to the show down later into the show. But after this match, we cut backstage and we catch up with another trio that's also slated to have a match at Turning Point, in which we get a quick backstage segment of the Rascals and Kushida, who talk about their upcoming 6-man tag team match against, the Hardys and Ace Austin at Turning Point. This is the weirdest team up I have ever seen, but I'm kind of here for it.
You know, can I just say that seeing the Rascals makes me kind of sad.
They have fallen so far, not to of their own thing. I was just like, they were on television for a little bit. Zach got an X Division championship run for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Though I will say, Mike Bailey versus Zachary Wentz at Victory Road is probably the best X Division match we've gotten in the last couple of years. It was so good. But yeah, and then after that, we kind of didn't see them. I mean, Zach and Wes went at it at NXT for 2 pay-per-views.
I don't know. It just, they were there with Kushida, and I felt sad for them. I was just like, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't. I was like, oh, I hate that. I hate that I was feeling sad for them. Like they were like, yeah, we're gonna do this thing. I was thinking, going, oh, this is sad. It's like, because I used to love to hate them so much because it's just like, and I used to get so frustrated on everybody who fought them that was like so surprised when they sprayed them in the face with spray paint, and I was just like, and I loved that, and now I just want to be like, do you need a hug? Like, I think you need a hug. Come, let me hug you, because I just felt so sad in that little promo. I was just watching it going, oh. Oh. And then they're teaming up with Kushida, who I love too, but it's a really weird, like, putting a round peg in a square hole, or a square peg in a round hole, and it was just weird. I don't know.
I think TNA is also kind of in a holding pattern right now because we're getting towards the end of the year, and we'll talk about it when we get to the end of the show and while we make our predictions too, because it seems that we have a couple of big people, like big players, finishing up with TNA. Their contracts are coming up very soon. I mean, we could just talk about it now since we talked about the X Division. Speedball Mike Bailey lost his championship to Moose last week and, got dicked punched by Trent Seven, who we'll talk about a little bit. No, 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry, not last week. 2 weeks ago. There's so much wrestling happening. But Mike Bailey, his contract was up on November 1st, so he is currently done with TNA. So now he is entering free agent status, and the reports are that he is going to be heading to All Elite Wrestling very soon, AEW, and might be making his appearance and his debut during the Continental Classic tournament coming up this week, which makes me excited. Because I think Speedball Mike Bailey has done a lot for TNA the last 3-4 years. And I definitely think he's ready for the next phase of his career. And I'm excited to see him go on to AEW or wherever he chooses to go. And then, of course, Jordan's contract's coming up very soon in February. Josh Alexander's contract's also coming up in like March, April. So we will see. And I think right now TNA is getting ready to start putting new faces of TNA wrestling up. I mean, we have Masha is already, to me, the new face for the Knockouts women's division, which is really nice to see. I think, and we'll talk about it later, I think we might be setting up Macklin to be a big face. And if it works out well, I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that. But yeah, I'm just like, we're in a holding pattern. I'm sad to see the Rascals and where we're seeing them. But I'm hoping that as we come to the end of 2024, that we have bigger things for the Rascals planned down the line, especially for the beginning of 2025. Because I would love to see them, now that they have transitioned back into faces, I would love to see them have another championship, tag team title run. But that's neither here nor there. So,
agreed.
I know. Alrighty. So we go back go back to the ring. We get back into the action because we have another women's match. It's crazy. 2 women's matches in a row. That's wild wrestling.
What?
If you can't already tell, Will, I'm being super facetious because I'm looking at these other companies this week. I'm like, y'all need to do better. How is it that NXT and TNA always end up putting their women on more of the show than anything? NXT always, the last 3 weeks, more than 50%, if we calculate all the matches that occurred, about more than 50% each week on NXT is dedicated to women matches and a women's segment. I'm looking at you, AEW. Only giving me 1 women's match and maybe 1 women's segment in an episode of Dynamite and Collision. And I'm just like, how dare you? But we're back into the ring at TNA because we get this match with Ash by Elegance, taking on one of our other favorites, the wild child herself, Jody Threat. So again, we are having this feud between Spitfire and, Ash and Heather by Elegance, the Elegance girls. Danny, not too long ago, was able to defeat Heather by Elegance, and so now Ash is up to bat with Jody, and this was a really fun match. I actually really enjoyed this one. I mean, I always am so impressed with Ash's finisher now, like the modified air raid crash kind of move called the rarefied air, which I always get a chuckle out of. That's what we're calling her finisher. I'm like, you're so bougie, Ash. I love it.
Big time.
Again, the
it.
shenanigans happen. Heather is out here. Danny Luna is out here. The concierge is out here. They all get involved. Danny Luna is able to take Heather out of commission. Unfortunately, Ash capitalizes off of the chaos happening around the ring, hits the rarefied air to win. And so Ash by Elegance has defeated one half of the Knockouts World Tag Team Championship champions in Jody Threat, which I'm pretty sure means that we're probably going to see a championship match with the Elegance girls taking on Spitfire in sub capacity. If not, at Turning Point, I would not be surprised if this ends up being on TV the next couple of weeks, or it ends up being a match at Final Resolution. But yeah, so Will, how did we feel about Jody Threat versus Ash by Elegance?
I loved it. Of course, I love Ash, and I love Jody Threat, and I figured this was going to be a fun match with the two of them. I was a little surprised by the outcome, but I'm okay with it because I was when we were going into this, I was like, I would be happy with either of these ladies winning the match, but I was a little surprised that Ash won this, and I guess she won it because of shenanigans, but I was just like, because I mean, come on, I mean, Jody Threat's like a chaotic, chihuahua.
She's our chaos gremlin, and I love her.
And I mean, so I was a little surprised, even though again there were shenanigans, so I get it. But and also, I was happy with it. But I really loved this match. I thought it was super fun, super great. I thought, Ash being Ash, was just fantastic. Just she's such a graceful winner, and I love that about her.
Will is super biased because there's a signed autograph by Ash somewhere hanging in his wall.
It is in my office. It's in my office at home. It sure is.
It definitely is. Honestly, that is my favorite thing that I have ever given a person to. Is that I was just like, the funny thing is, it just started just getting an autograph photo for Will, and then it turned into I got the chance to interview her as well, which was crazy. I was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what questions that. But Ash I love Ash. She was so great. I always am thankful for the interview, and every time she's on my screen, I'm like, she is so great. I am so happy that she's finding success here in TNA. Like, honestly, I can't imagine this Knockouts division without her. But again, I wasn't necessarily surprised by the outcome, but I still thought it was fun. And I'm interested to see what this leads to next. So I'm like, you have me sold. I'm here for it. Then, again, we talk about one of my favorite peeps here in TNA. Michael Santana is in the ring.
Oh, love. I love this whole segment.
Oh my god. Okay, first of all, before we talk about Frankie Kazarian coming in, because spoiler, he interrupts Mike Santana.
Duh.
Mike Santana probably has some of my favorite promos this year of any company, and this was another one. This was a very passionate promo.
Yeah.
And this whole entire thing showed Mike Santana saying that he is all about proving the doubters wrong, and that he promises to become TNA World Champion. And I'm just sitting here and I'm like, TNA, Mike Santana needs to become champion in 2025. We need to make that happen.
He needs to become a champion. I don't care where. He needs to be something.
He needs to be a champion in TNA, whether it's X Division, whether it is, you're our world champion.
He would be a badass X Division champ.
I mean, despite his size, he fights like he is a cruiserweight, and because Mike Santana is a bruiser, but he also flies all over the place too.
Yep.
But again, Mike Santana has some of my favorite promos, and this was no exception. He promises to become a world champion before he is interrupted by this year's Call Your Shot Gauntlet winner, Frankie Kazarian, the king of TNA, as he likes to proclaim himself. Frankie claims that if anyone is going to reach the top of the TNA, championship division, it's going to be him. And then Mike Santana's like, bro, we ain't wasting time here. So if that's the case, let's prove it. I challenge you to a match for Turning Point. And spoiler alert, we get this match made later after TNA goes off the air, which we'll talk about a little bit when we do our TNA Turning Point predictions. But of course, I've loved this whole segment. I was like, Frankie Kazarian, how dare you interrupt my man? Just kidding. There's not enough words in the English dictionary to describe how behind I am of Mike Santana and how I want to see this man succeed in anything and everything. And you know, which is crazy because he hasn't even been in this company for long. He returned in April. He returned to TNA in April, so he's really only been here for like 6 months. But I'm like, this man deserves everything. Put a championship on him now.
Yeah, but you know, it's funny. I mean, I know he's only been here for a very short period, but you know, there's just some, and I know in the idea of storytelling, you kind of have to start at the bottom and work your way up. I get it. But he is one of these wrestlers that when he came in, I mean, he took the place by storm. I mean, he's charismatic and he's likable and he's good at what he does. And, you know, and it's one of those, it's like, is he a face? Is he a heel? Is he an anti-hero? What is he? You don't really know what he is, you know, which I also really like. I like that he doesn't have a label. And I don't know if that's something that he's intentionally doing. And if it is, bravo to you, my good man. Because I like not knowing where he falls. And I like that, you know, he kind of reminds me, I know this is going to sound silly, but he kind of reminds me of Batman. Sort of, you know, vigilante justice, you know, but sometimes you have to go against the law to do what you need to do. And so sometimes the good folks get in the way and you just have to do what you do. And I love that about him. I mean, he's so, I'm like, I was a huge Santana fan from the moment he walked out of there. The minute he walked onto the scene, I was like, gosh, this man is like, I would be in his gang. If he was like coming and recruiting for a gang, I'd be like, yes, sir. I would love to be in your gang, please. I could bake cookies. I can't like, you know, hurt people, but I could bake cookies. It's like,
but
it's, you know, I mean, he's so amazing. I just love the man.
But you bring up that point, and I think what people don't often talk about too is that there's such an authenticity and a realness to Mike Santana. I mean, granted, this is a character. He is quote unquote playing as this character, but there's such an authentic, like I said, there's such an authentic and realistic approach to it because yes, this is Mike Santana, the wrestler, but his whole gear, his gimmick, everything is so based in his real life reality of being that kid who grew up in New York and toughing out in the streets. And like, he is about that life. And I'm like, he is just so charismatic in being authentic and raw and real. And I think that's why I love his promos because they are just so to the point and raw and real. I'm like, the charisma, I'm like, I will overthrow tiny nations for this man. Like,
absolutely. That's what I'm telling you.
I'm like, overthrow the patriarchy. What?
I will literally join the Santana army.
Oh my goodness.
The Santanistas or something.
Yes.
I don't know, but all right, so let's pause on our you know, glory talk of Santana and let's go talk about Frank Kazarian, please. Because
Frankie Kazarian,
I don't necessarily like where this character is going. This character is walking a very tight, very narrow rope.
It's getting weird.
Well, it was there when he was talking to Mike Santana, there was a little bit of language that was being used that could, had it gone 1 inch,
it was really coded. I was like,
super racist.
I was like, Frankie Kazarian. I was like, listen, we cannot. I know that given the times that we live in now, things have gotten crazier. But sir, we cannot. Now, obviously, if he does, Mike Santana's going to whoop that ass, which makes me excited. But there are just certain lines I'm like, I'm not sure we can talk about that. But yeah, this is getting weird for Frankie. Like, I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but I preferred it when it was more of a dad going through midlife crisis, heel
Yeah, me
Frankie
too.
Kazarian, and just being a douche. And now he is being like that one racist uncle we all have. I was like,
Yeah.
why don't you invite him to family dinner? I'm like, do you remember what he did to Aunt Patricia not long ago?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
do you remember the Christmas party at 22? Why? What happened? I was like, ooh.
Remember what he said about cousin Trisha's boyfriend? I mean, it's like, yeah. And so I
Is that
was
one relative we don't invite to the
yeah, exactly.
Thanksgiving
Does
party?
not come to the barbecue. Not
No,
at all.
does not come to the family get-togethers, the family functions. No, sir.
So I mean, I was watching that and I was just like, ooh, we're on slippery slope.
It's like dive, catch him before he falls.
I was like, Mike, please hit him now so he'll shut up. I was like,
well, the funny thing is Mike didn't have to hit him, but
No.
he ended up getting his just desserts
Yep.
because as soon as his promo was over, we just jumped straight into the next match, which doesn't last
It was
very long.
great.
Frankie Kazarian versus Rhino. Honestly, this match was just Rhino beating the shit out of Frankie Kazarian for a chunk of this match. And then Frankie only wins by rolling him up with his feet on the ropes. And even still, after the match, Rhino still ends up being the winner of this whole thing because he hits Frankie Kazarian with the gore and lays his ass
Just
out.
lays his ass, doubled him over. Like he was laying over, doubled in half.
He lawn chaired himself like 2 times.
It was so great. I was like, oh, I love it when douchebag Kazarian gets his ass kicked. I just love it.
It's always fun with those types of characters. Always,
and and then and that's what's so funny. And the other thing about that is if this Frankie Kazarian character would be a great comedic character. If you made him like the comedic dastardly bad guy, like the wahaha twirling the mustache.
You need Dick Dastardly. This is what we need.
Yeah, and it always gets his ass kicked by the good guys. I'm here for that. I am absolutely here for that.
I need more Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's instead of this, I don't know, this whole thing with the call your shot gauntlet and and I mean, unless you're going to make it this just hilarious like Three Stooges thing, I mean, come on. I mean, that's the Frankie Kazarian that I would love to see, is just sort of the kooky villain, that's is a villain, but he's always like his plans are always getting foiled by by Moose and Squirrel.
Exactly. It's more like Dick. Yeah, we need Dick Dastardly. We need a Rocky and Bullwinkle type of villain. Like, it'll be great.
I agree. And I think it would be because he's right there on that cusp. It's like he's right there. If he just took a step to the left, he would be the sort of Dick Dastardly, melodramatic bad guy. And I would be here for that. I would so be here for that. Because, we don't have one of those in TNA. We don't have that sort of,
comedic
mustache twirler. We don't have that guy. We don't, we just want to laugh at every time he's out there, but he's so serious about what he's doing. And then he gets his butt kicked and then but still says, "Well, I'm still the good bad guy. I'm still the best bad guy there is, but still gets his ass whooped every single time." I would love that. I would absolutely love that. I just don't like the nearly racist Frankie Kazarian.
Be like, Frankie Kazarian, if you take one more step across that line, you are uninvited from the Christmas party. I'm just putting it out there.
Seriously. I'm like, oof.
Oh my goodness. So we go from talking about a more fun topic to talk about because we like making fun of Frankie Kazarian around here. So before I even mention what we're about to talk about, because we had some feelings and thoughts about this next segment, which involves a certain Mr. Steve Macklin and his chiseled square jaw of his. So important to notice We are thrilled to invite you to dive into the world of wrestling with us at BC WrestlePod. Your opinions and insights are what make our wrestling community vibrant and diverse. Whether you are a longtime fan or new to the scene, your perspective is valuable. When sharing thoughts or commenting, let us remember to keep the conversation respectful and supportive. Wrestling is a passion we all share, and it is in our spirited discussions that we learn and grow together. So let's celebrate our favorite moments, discuss the incredible matches, maybe even debate the outcomes with the kindness and respect. That was the nice version. The PG-13 version is don't be a dick.
Yeah. And before we get into the meat and bones of this, can I simply say I just realized who Steve Macklin reminds me of?
Oh God.
He reminds me. And this is our light part before we get into the heavy stuff.
Yes.
He reminds me of Trap Jaw from He-Man.
Oh my
God. Seriously, it's the square jaw. Its mouth is huge.
I'm dropping my one F-bomb in this episode. I'm so fucking mad at you, Will, because now I can't unsee it again. I'm so mad at you. How dare you, sir?
Hey, Steve Macklin, I love you. I think you're amazing.
We love Steve Macklin in this household. Now, damn it, now I can't unsee it.
He's just sitting here and went, oh my God.
I'm just like, what
okay,
the
now to the serious stuff, everybody.
Okay. So, for those of you that are watching, we are going to talk about Steve Macklin's, this was a good 7-minute promo vignette thing we got. And it lightly touches on a lot of things. So for those of you who are watching, this is your trigger warning right now. We are going to talk about minor alcoholism, kind of, but also talking about PTSD and, warfare and things like that. So if you are sensitive to those kinds of things, you may want to either put us on mute and I will give you the thumbs up signal that we are past that point and you can rejoin us, or you can go do something for the next 5 to 10 minutes and then come on back and then rejoin us here. But you have been, given your warning. All right, let's talk about this. So before we started, I caught Will up on all the things that have gone down in TNA, which is crazy enough because even though we haven't reviewed in 3 weeks, it's been pretty easy to follow along, except for this one, because filling in Will, I told him how we got to this point. Since Bound for Glory, Steve Macklin lost to Josh Alexander, but Josh was not having any of it because Macklin didn't tap, he didn't quit, he passed out, which is something that Josh didn't want to do. And so about 2 weeks ago, we had Josh and the Good Hands, of all people, because the Sinner and Saint were unavailable, take on the team of Jonathan Gresham, Steve Macklin, and Eric Young, who all three have beef with Josh and his crew. So they pick up the victory. Then last week, we have a rematch, but this time it is Macklin, Eric Young, and Jonathan Gresham taking on the full force of the Northern Armory, which is Josh Alexander and Sinner and Saint, in which there was some slight communication between Eric Young and Steve Macklin, which allowed Josh Alexander and the Northern Armory to pick up the victory. Backstage, we get Eric Young and Steve Macklin arguing and fighting. Jonathan Gresham is like, I'm a dip and I am going to stay out of the drama because I don't need this in my life. But once they figure it out, they can come back to him because he still wants to get a piece of Josh Alexander. Eric Young tells Steve Macklin that, you know what, your trust issues is getting out of hand. You need to do a little bit of soul searching and you need to figure out how you are going to work through those things and your hangups with me in order for you to truly trust me. It's like, I'm not the same person I was last year and I need you to figure out a way to get through your own issues. And I'm like, okay, cool. So next couple of weeks, we're probably going to start seeing Steve Macklin have to stare himself in the mirror a little bit and deal with his trust issues with Eric Young and find a way to trust him. On paper, in my opinion, this should be like a 2 to 3 week build where Macklin does various things to get through his trust issues that he has with Eric Young. That is not what we got in this promo, because I feel like we fast forward through those couple of weeks and those couple of chapters, and we were just hit with everything at once. So I want to go through the promo itself, kind of talk about everything. And then me and Will are going to have a very lengthy discussion about this one segment of this wrestling show, because there is a lot to unpack here. But let me talk about what happened. So we opened up this cinematic. By the way, shout out to TNA, because this was very well done. It was shot very well. It was produced very well. Like, their editors did a marvelous job. This was probably the best looking cinematic piece that TNA has done this year. We opened up with Steve Macklin at a bar. It plays some like very hokey country music, like Team America type stuff. I was like, yep, this is definitely where I think we're going with this. And sure enough, it was. But Steve Macklin is at a bar and we see him drinking. Then Eric Young comes into the bar, also has a drink. Steve Macklin finds himself in a hotel, turns on the television, and then we get into the scene in which we're all used to with the trope with, war heroes with PTSD. We get like the flash grenade, like ear-piecing sound of the ear. Macklin is having visions of his time when he served in Afghanistan. Then it cuts to him in the shower as he's still having these moments of PTSD. We see shots of him trying to go to sleep in bed. Also, Steve Macklin, underwear choice, gives 10 out of 10 from me. Just saying. But yeah, Macklin is having a restless night because, again, there's a lot of imagery, PTSD imagery for his service. And then we get into this really weird part in which Macklin is like in an interrogation table. Eric Young comes in. Then there's a bunch of imagery with Eric Young voicing over that Macklin has to, that all it's like, you want to blame me for your issues, but I think this all comes from you. Very introspective of it all. And then, of course, once this is said and done, Macklin wakes up and it seems like he is ready to go to face a new day and things like that. I know it sounds like a very oversimplification, but there was a lot. There was a lot in this promo. And my words alone do not do it justice. So please, if you haven't, go to TNA Wrestling social media, whether it be on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, and watch this promo for yourself, because this was a lot. Okay, now that I've kind of explained the gist of it, Will, where do you want to begin to unpack this? Because this, I'm not going to lie, this wasn't as crazy and this wasn't as heavy, upon the second watch through, it wasn't as heavy as I initially thought it was going to be, but holy crap, there's a lot to this.
Well, as we were talking about off screen, and I was telling Mike we could talk about it on screen as well, and I think we should talk about it on screen, is one, I thought the promo was beautifully done. I thought it was way above the normal production values that we get from TNA. And again, all of this that we're going to talk about is, for me, I don't know if this was an awareness type video or this was a gimmick type video. Now, with that being said, it felt, and I feel that Steve Macklin would have made this more of an awareness type of video of this is what veterans go through and this is what's affecting him and this is that and this, that, and the other. And let me preface this. My father was a veteran, my grandfather, my uncles. I have family in basically all the branches. And I take veterans issues very seriously. So when this started happening, I was like, because immediately I thought, oh God, they're about to make a gimmick out of veterans and what they mentally go through. And I was not happy with. I was really like going, please God, do not let that be what this is. However, I don't know what it was, because we didn't get a resolution to what it was. So again, it could have been very much, an awareness video going, Macklin's a veteran, he saw war, he saw horrible things happen. He's letting that affect him, because PTSD doesn't go away and it affects your everyday life. And so I was like, okay, I get that. Okay, so we're going that route. So, but I didn't feel that. I just don't feel that we were given anything. Like, we weren't educated. That's the thing. We as an audience were not educated. We were just seen. We just saw. We were just presented. Like, this is and like Mikey said, it's sort of a trope. It's like the wounded hero trope, and I hate to even put that word on it because trope tends to cheapen things. And so, and I again, Macklin, I thank you for your service, and I honestly don't believe that you were making a gimmick out of this. I honestly don't believe that. However, the company, I wouldn't put it past them that they would take it and kind of twist it their own way, because it didn't feel, for me, I did not get a resolution out of it. I didn't get this is what this is. And so that kind of bothered me a little bit. Again, I thought it was beautifully done. And again, I'm just going on my honest to God heart feel that Steve Macklin would not do this as a gimmick. So I'm truly believing that he was doing this to say, this is what I'm going through, not just as a character, but as a human being. And it affects all aspects of your life. It affects your decision making. It affects your emotional state. It affects your relationships with people. And so I get that. So I understood the whole trust thing. It affects that. But I don't feel that we got that resolution. Like, and we were talking also, and I'll let Mikey talk here in a minute, and we were also talking about, this is a classic Greek tragic hero's journey. We see this sort of character who has to go through hell and back, and we're starting to see him kind of go through hell, and he usually has a companion with him, which would be Eric Young, and who is sort of walking with him through this journey. And it's the hero, the tragic hero going through hell. Those are his trials. He has to go through those trials so that he can emerge. He can come out of hell a new person. And it's usually, in the tragic hero's journey, the tragic hero usually dies in some way, meaning the old version of him dies and a new version is born. So I'm assuming that that's kind of what we're getting here. That we're seeing the old Macklin, who was the untrusting, the chaotic, the lone wolf, that sort of character dying off as he's learning his lessons, as he's going through hell. So that when he comes out on the other side of this journey, we have the official face Macklin, the new Macklin, who is more trusting, who is, a much more loving human being, who is, sort of like begins to repair these sort of broken or burnt bridges. And so I'm really kind of hoping that that's what this is, and that they were just showing us the hell that he's going through. And if that is the case, then I am 1000% behind this. 1000%. If this was just a gimmick, however, I'm going to have a serious problem with TNA. Serious problem. Because,
yeah.
Don't mess with my veterans.
No, absolutely not. So, I mean, there's not much to add to that because, Will, you pretty much said everything that I was going to say, and I agree with you 100%. And even just dissecting this a little bit further, too, there's a lot of imagery and allegory when it comes to like this trope, not just in wrestling. And again, we here at BC WrestlePod, because a majority of us are theater professors or, participate in theater. I think only 2 of us are not of that realm. But I try to empathize. again, there's a lot of imagery and allegory from this whole entire segment of, like you said, it is the old has to die in order for the new man to be put on, so to speak. And again, very religious allegory too when it comes to all that, that one must die to self in order to, open themselves up to the new possibilities and things like that. Very steeped in Greek tragedy, very steeped in, Judeo-Christian, if you want to, whatever. I really, really hope, and again, I love the presentation of this. Am a little perplexed. What I am hoping is, like you said, Will, that this is just the first step into maybe one or two more of these things that shows the journey of Macklin going from, killing the old self and then becoming this more face Macklin, if you will. Because if that's the case, then honestly, I think TNA might just win my favorite, like, character development moment of 2024, in all honesty. But there's not enough from what we saw in this video, like you said, because there is no resolution. I hope that we continue to tell the story, whether it be in stuff like these pre-taped vignettes, or we start to see, like, on screen, like an actual change of Macklin's character doing 180 to become more face. I don't know. Again, I thought this was really well produced, and I like the content that we did, and I think Macklin's intentions are pure and nothing nefarious. But I'm hoping that this is like the first in what is going to be a series to kind of get Macklin to get to where we need to have him be as, like, a true face of TNA, because we've known him as this heel and this, like, anti-hero, if you will, but we have yet to see Macklin as a true baby face. And I think, and what I'm hoping is, by the end of this journey is what gets him there, and it's going to be worth it, and it wasn't just used to be as a gimmick. So I absolutely agree with you. Alrighty, so I am giving the thumbs up signal to those of you who decided to tune us out. So we are back. So we are done talking about probably the heaviest portion of this episode of TNA, because then we get straight into the action. And just like we like seeing Frankie Kazarian get his ass handed to him, I also like watching the System get their ass handed to them as well. So this was a tag team match where we had the System with our new X Division champion Moose and Johnny Dango Curtis taking on the team of Laredo Kid and my personal favorite, Leon Slater. I love Leon Slater so much. This was a really good match. And Leon and Laredo win? What? I was shocked. I was not going to lie. Of course, JDC gets pinned in this match, as he tends to do with the Systems matches, but I was very shocked that Laredo Kid and Leon Slater picked up the victory. By the way, that finisher was a thing of beauty. I'm just putting it out there.
Well, I mean, they took Moose out, though, there towards the end. I was like, holy crap. They took him out on the floor, and he was, like, laid out. It was like, I was like, see, that was smart move right there. It's like, you need to take Moose out. You got to get him out of the running. And that's what they did. And then JDC was just, he was a sitting duck at that point. Because even, I don't think JDC is that great of a wrestler. And I mean, comparatively, I'm not saying he's a bad wrestler, just comparatively to, like, Moose and, Eddie and all them. But I do think it's funny that he's always the one getting pinned. Because I think he's the, I think he's the weak link in the system. I mean, I do. I think he is. And I think that what they did was smart. Took Moose out and then focused on JDC. And it was like, yeah, that was brilliant. Once they took Moose out, I was like, oh, that's where we're going with this. Okay.
Which I
was a little surprised too.
Which was really nice to see too. I was like, oh, wrestlers being smart. That's crazy, right? Who knew? Of course, this doesn't last long. Celebration doesn't last long because Moose and JDC then begin to attack Leon Slater. But then they run out as soon as Laredo evens the odds with a chair.
With a chair.
I was just like, Moose, you are like 5 times the size of a chair, bro. Like, why are we running from a chair?
I know, right?
Now, had it been a kendo stick, though, I would have been like much more reasonable. Be like, yeah, it doesn't matter how big you are. You won't get smacked across the back. It is crazy. Oh, my goodness. But we'll talk about it later because this sets up another match for Turning Point, which we'll get to when we get to our commentating team. Joe Hendry is next, and he is in the mix now. We get this promo from him. Joe Hendry still has the goal to become TNA World Champion, and I'm just like, yes, love Joe Hendry. But first he has to get through this turkey bowl match at Turning Point, and I'm just like, I forgot we have him in this match. It's just like, all right, well, we'll talk about it because I am familiar with this match through the history archives of TNA, and as fun as this is going to be, this is stupid. I hate this match stipulation, but we'll talk about it. I'm like, poor Joe Hendry, because we have to wait for you to get another match against Nick Nemeth at some capacity. So now we got to put you in everything else to keep you on television. And because you beat Josh Alexander, we can't continue that story either for a little bit longer because Josh is embroiled with Macklin right now. Oh, Joe, we love you. It's, you brought it up with the Rascals of how you felt very sad. This is how I feel right now with Joe Hendry. I'm like, I mean, I'm glad you're on my television screen. I swear to God, if you lose though at Turning Point, I may need to take a break from TNA for the rest of 2024.
Right. Seriously.
Oh my goodness. I mean, there's nothing much to add to this. It's just the fact that Joe Hendry still wants to go after the title, but he has to get through Turning Point first. Moving on. Also, poor Nick Nemeth. We're trying to get this invested between him and Eddie Edwards. I was like, there's no flipping way Eddie is winning at Turning Point. I think Eddie is such a reliable talent, and he's really good in the ring. I like him. But let's be real. There is no possible way that he is going to be beating Nick Nemeth. And if he does, I will be shocked.
Yeah, me too.
Which I bring this up because Nick Nemeth has some words for Eddie Edwards in this backstage pre-tape promo against Eddie. And I'm just like, Nick, I swear to God, for everything that is holy, I need you to walk out at Turning Point with the victory. And TNA, you better not give me... I want to see Eddie as a champion in some capacity, just not at the expense of Nick.
Agreed.
So... then, after this, we get pretty much a squash match, which I still love because we have Savannah Evans, who I am so happy again she is back. And she takes on local talent, Brittany Jade. Savannah makes quick work of her opponent.
She does.
Just throwing her across the ring and hitting the full Nelson Slam for the win. I'm like, Savannah, I'm like, snaps to you, girl, because I am so happy you are back. I've missed you so much. I was like, you can bench press me all you want, mama.
Love it.
I love it. Anyways, I mean, there's not much to discuss other than the fact that Savannah is back and I love her. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it was good. It was, it was short. It was sweet. It was done. I mean,
yes,
it was there. It served a purpose. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I loved it. But something else that I love too, we go backstage with Masha Slamovich, in which she challenges Jordan for a 2 out of 3 falls match at Turning Point, and Jordan accepts it right then and there. And I'm just like, oh my God, these two are about to kill each other, and I'm so here for it. TNA, if you know what's good for you, you better make this the main event. I don't care. Make this match the main event, because if not, I'm gonna be mad at you. I don't think it's going to be. It'll probably end up being the semi-main event, and just like Bound for Glory, that match will probably steal the show, even though it was the main event.
Not main event. Yeah, I agree.
I'm pretty sure Nick and Eddie are going to be the main event.
I would assume so. I mean, but
I'm just like, there's so much more intrigue with Masha and Jordan's match being main event.
Well, I don't know if you think about it. I think there's,
honestly, you can go either way. I'm still excited for both championship matches, but this 2 out of 3 fall match is about to be a classic, and I'm excited.
Yeah, I agree.
I hope so, at least. So now we get back to our commentary team before we get into our main event of the evening, in which we get 3 more matches made for Turning Point. First and foremost, Moose will be defending the X Division Championship against Laredo Kid. Poor Laredo's not going to win, but that is okay. Honestly, if we want to have Moose feud with Leon Slater for a little bit after Laredo Kid loses at Turning Point, I actually would be kind of here for it. I'm not going to lie, because I want more Leon Slater on my television. We also get the match made, Mike Santana versus Frankie Kazarian, TNA, and all the wrestling gods out there. I swear, if Mike Santana loses, you're going to hear from me when we do the Turning Point review. I'm going to be so upset with you.
Yeah.
And honestly, if Frankie Kazarian gets his ass handed to him at Turning Point, I was just like, oh, this is the best pay-per-view ever. 10 out of 10.
Pay-per-view ever. Yep.
10 out of 10. No notes.
Yep.
And then, of course, we get the 2 out of 3 falls match with Masha and Jordan. But we also learned that we're getting a no DQ match between Josh and Steve. And I was like, okay, outside of Masha and Jordan, this match is also going to be really good because no disqualification means they're going to beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah,
and I'm here for the propensity of violence. But what's even more is that Sinner and Saint have been banned from the building during this match. So I'm just like, there's going to be other shenanigans, and I cannot wait to see who pops their ugly heads into this match. We'll talk about it during predictions because after what the trajectory might be for all of this, I feel strongly that somebody needs to win, but we'll talk about it when we do our predictions. So thank goodness that we get this ahead of time. Next Thursday, it's just going to be a Thanksgiving special that is showing never before seen matches from 2024. Which includes matches like Mike Bailey versus Jake something. I was like, why was that not on television? So that's one thing. Also, Jordan versus Danny Luna, Nick Nemeth versus Sami Callihan, Moose versus PCO, and a casket match, which is crazy to think about. So I was like, well, at least we got a special. Though I was really hoping that this year we would also get the crazy Thanksgiving, like retro 1960s wrestling spectacular, like we did last year, where they were all dressed up as like comedy characters. That shit was funny.
Yeah, it was.
It was so hilarious, but maybe one day. But then we get into our main event. Daddy Trent 7, Hammerstone, and Jake something, the power trio that I did not know that I would like to be under.
Yeah, I would.
Taking on the World Tag Team Champions, the Hardys, and Ace Austin. I'm happy that we're still putting Ace Austin on television, even though Chris Bay is out for a while. Yeah. And shout out to Chris Bay and his recovery. We support you. We love you. And, you know, I cannot wait for you to come back whenever your recovery is done. For those of you who do not know, Chris Bay suffered an injury at the taping after Bound for Glory. He had to have surgery. He is doing good. He is doing his rehabilitation and all of that. And shout out to the wrestling professionals in the community for, you know, overreaching the goal of the GoFundMe that Chris's family set up for him. So I love it when the wrestling community can stop setting itself on fire and doing good things for the wrestling community. Yeah. But this is the trios match, and I'm going to be real. This match actually kind of slapped. Like, this match was probably my favorite of the whole entire night.
This one was badass.
I was like, damn, am I actually really enjoying the Hardys? Like, what is happening to me? I was like, they were great. Ace Austin's fantastic. Yep. But again, the team of Trent 7, Hammerstone, and Jake something, I was just like, gimme. Like, they exert such raw aggression. I love it.
You know, the thing I loved about this match is one of the things I loved about this match is that it was pure chaos.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it was pure chaos. Because, I mean, you have, you know, Hammerstone, something, and 7, who are 3 huge men going against, you know, the Hardys and Ace. I mean, they who are not huge men. I mean, even the Hardys, they're kind of svelty. You know, I mean, they're tall and they're broad-shouldered, but they're not like huge. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be crazy, because I know the Hardys are like psycho when they're in the ring, and which is great, which I love. I love that. And, you know, and Ace is very much like, he's that speedy like type wrestler, just like zip zap. I mean, he's like Mike Bailey. He's very quick on his feet. He can fly. He can, you know, he flings himself everywhere. And then you have these 3 sort of grounded mountains. And so I was like, from the beginning, I was like, this is going to be pure chaos, and I'm here for it. And it was the whole match. was chaotic. I mean, there was a point where all 6 of them were in the ring whooping each other's butts. I mean, it was just like, then they were out, and then they were in, then there was 2, and then there was 3-on-1, and then it was just like, oh my God, what is happening right now? I didn't know what was going on at times. And I was here for it. I was glued to it. I was like, oh my God. I watched it twice because I watched it the first time just for the excitement of it, and then I watched it the second time to watch it. And I thought that all 6 men performed very well. I thought they all brought something unique to what was going on, to the match, and I love that there was so much going on in ring and out of ring. It was just great. And then, like I said, it was pure chaos because you didn't know who was hitting who. I didn't know who was tagged in half the time. I was just like, because they were all over the place. So I loved it. It was actually my match of the night. It was my absolute match of the night.
Mine too. I thought this was fantastic. And, I am actually kind of happy because Trent, Hammerstone, and Jake can pick up the victory here over the Hardys and Ace Austin. Team aggression until we come up with something different for them. I mean, we had Hammerstone and Jake's tag team name as Team Hammer or something, so we got to figure out how to add Trent Seven's name into it. So we'll figure that out. So Trent Seven and Team Hammer something look to add insult to injury to the Hardys and Ace Austin, but then they are chased off by the Rascals and Kushida, which I'm like, are we setting up a future feud? Because if so, I would be here for it. And that would kind of fix the problems we talked about, how we felt about the Rascals in their backstage segment. Or if we wanted to do a full-blown 9-person, like 3-on-3-on-3, which we'll talk about during Turning Point predictions, I'd be here for it too.
Yep.
But that is going to be it for the actual episode review. So really quickly, I'm just going to give this a B. I thought this was a really fun show for me. I thought it was pretty solid. Of course, there's some questions I have, but as always, I am going to continue to come back to TNA every week to figure out how we get there. And, this was the second to last show before we get into Turning Point. But to Will, what did you think about the show? And what do you give this as your grade?
I gave it a B as well because I thought for the most part it was pretty decent show. I mean, I didn't have any major issues with it, except for, and it wasn't even a major issue. It was just I had a concern, and that was the Macklin promo. But again, it wasn't so much that it made me hate the episode. It was just a B. I gave it a solid B. Probably
Absolutely.
even a B plus.
Oh yeah. Oh, so normally this is where we would end our little review, but it's funny because we came back finally, and then it was like, we're not gonna have a review next week, because it's Thanksgiving week for us here in the United States. And as the boss, I wanted to try to be different, and I am giving the entire crew, minus a few folks who are still working on Monday and Tuesday, but the majority of the crew will have all next week off. We will be going dark for the week, so everyone could take some time to celebrate with their families and to spend time together and just to watch wrestling without having to review it. But because we are not going to have a review next Friday, we are going to do our Turning Point predictions tonight. So I am going to switch us to our pay-per-view overview. So grab a snack and enjoy this 10-second ad break.
Yeah. Here we go.
That has been my favorite thing to use between transitions. It is so much fun. And I'm like, it is so me. Anyways, so now that we are in a new set location, now that we are in our TNA pay-per-view overlay, we are going to give our predictions for TNA's Turning Point. So Turning Point is taking place next Friday, November 29th. So the day after Turkey Day, gobble gobble, Thanksgiving for all of you folks in the United States. And somehow Canada had their Thanksgiving already. So we need to be like Canada. Anyways, so currently Turning Point has 7 matches set for it. And I would not be surprised if we get a pre-show match or if we get one more added, but that is neither here nor there. So we're going to go through these. I'm going to be completely honest, Will. I think it's pretty easy to pick who's going to walk out as the winners, which is not necessarily a bad thing. And also will help us pad our predictions record because somebody is walking away come Rebellion 2025 in a wrestling onesie.
Yeah. So who's providing the onesie?
I mean, we got to do some research and figure out because depending on who loses this thing, we need to make sure that it is embarrassing enough, but also that they are very comfortable because we don't want them to be uncomfortable because lots of gibbles and bits are going to be tightly compacted into that thing, which also might not be a punishment for some of us, but that's for a different conversation. Oh my goodness. Me and Will talk more offline because it's about to get crazy. So let's just begin. So we're going to start off. So the way I put these matches in order, I started with singles and trios matches that don't have any championships at stake, and then work our way up through the championships that are happening at Turning Point. So we are going to begin with what I am hoping is going to be the funniest match on the card. This is Mike Santana taking on Frankie Kazarian. I am biased as all hell. I feel like TNA, if you do not have Mike Santana win, we're going to have some words during the review of Turning Point, next week or so. But again, this match was made because Frankie Kazarian was being a turd and interrupted Mike Santana. And Mike Santana's like, all right, you say that you're the king of TNA, then prove it. Fight me at Turning Point. So I have to go with Mike Santana. There's no other choice for me. There is not a world or alternate universe where me or my thousands of clones would pick Frankie Kazarian.
There's no way Frankie Kazarian is winning this unless shenanigans happen. That is the only way that he will walk out of that. That is.
I'll still be mad, but I'll be less.
Oh,
mad
I will be
too.
I'll be so angry, but I agree. I'm all for Mike Santana on this one.
Yeah, I hope so. For Mike Santana, with the momentum that he's gotten beating Moose at Bound for Glory, there's no need to have his momentum stop. So beating Frankie Kazarian to keep it going. So he runs through Frankie to get to where we go next with Mike is exactly what happened. So both of us have picked Mike Santana. So the second match we're going to talk about, which also has me very excited, especially now that it's a no DQ match. We have round 2 of Josh Alexander versus Steve Macklin. Hopefully there's more to this thing that we saw from Macklin, but because this is round 2 and this is a no DQ match, my brain wants to tell me that because it's no DQ, Josh could possibly walk out of here with a win. But my heart and my wrestler bone are telling me completely different, and so I'm caught in between the two. But you know what? I don't care if I lose this. This is a hard one. I don't care about it because I mean, you can go either way with this, but you know what? Screw it. I don't care if I get the point wrong. I think Macklin walks away the winner of this one because it's no DQ. Shenanigans are definitely going to happen, but who knows? Shenanigans might be in Steve Macklin's favor. And then we could get one more match at Final Resolution where they actually beat the piss out of each other. Give me Full Metal Mayhem between these two. I think it'd be nuts.
Right. I am also going with Steve Macklin because I think that since this is a number 2, I think, and Josh won the first one, I think Macklin's going to win this one. And I think you're right. At the next one, it's going to be who's going to win.
Somebody's bleeding in the third match.
Yeah, seriously. And then that,
or who knows, somebody might bleed here.
And I think that third one's going to end this. Whatever
feud
this is with
for
them.
now.
Yeah, for now.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think they're always going to be like at odds with each other, but I think the direct feud I think will end, and they'll just have their normal "I don't like you, you don't like me" type stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Alrighty, so third match. This is an interesting one, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun. At first, I was like, why is this match being made? But now that we saw, based on what we saw from this week's episode, I'm just like, I think we will get a definitive winner. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I think Trent, Jake, and Hammerstone are about to come out and wreck everybody after the match. I think that's what's going to happen. Well, who knows? We'll see.
Who knows? Yeah.
I love the Rascals and Kushida. But I also feel like the Hardys and Ace Austin should probably win, given the fact that they've been on a losing streak since, coming out of Bound for Glory. So I think they're due for a win. This hurts me because I love the Rascals and Kushida.
I know.
This is like a lose-lose for me because I don't want either team to lose.
I
But if I'm
agree.
going to pick, I think I'm going to have to go with the Hardys and Ace
Yeah.
Austin because I feel like all 6 of these men have been giving the losing streak right now in TNA because whether it's individually or as a tag team or a trio, all of them have had a consistent losing record. And as much as I want to pick my boys of the Rascals and Kushida, I feel that the Hardys and Ace Austin kind of need to win this one to get back on track a little bit. So I'm going to go with the Hardys and Ace Austin. And I also predict that someone's getting their ass kicked at the end of this match.
Yeah. Well, I went with the Hardys as well and Ace Austin because, like I said, there's something just not right with the Rascals right now, and I don't necessarily. So I don't think that they're in a position to win. Even with Kushida's help, and I think honestly and truly, I don't know because, like we said, it's such an odd grouping, the Rascals and Kushida. It's so weird. I mean, it's like. I never would have thought that those 3 would be fighting together, like as a team. I don't know. It's just weird to me. And I just feel that the Rascals are in a low point. I don't think they're ready, or not ready, but I think they're because they're in a low point, they're not going to win. So that's the only reason I'm going with the Hardys and Ace Austin. And I think at a pay-per-view, you kind of need your champions to win, You know what I mean? But it just feels like it would be, what's the point if the Hardys lose? I mean, if Hardys and Ace Austin lose, then you just like your champs lost at the pay-per-view. I mean, I don't know. To me, it just feels like the Hardys and Ace Austin are going to win this. I mean, so I'm going with it. I'm going with them.
Oh, absolutely. I really hope that Hardys and Ace Austin win. But again, this hurts my little heart because I'm like, all 6 of these guys deserve wins, but somebody has to lose in this one.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think it's going to be the Rascals and Kushida. Anyways, alrighty. So let's move on. What is next? Okay. So all right, hang on. Before we talk about the participants of this match, let me just educate the kids out here. So I didn't even see at first glance when I saw this picture on Instagram, I wasn't paying attention to what was underneath the turning point. And I saw these 6 men. I'm like, oh my God, are we about to get a 6-way match between this? Hell yeah, this is about to be kind of on and popping. And then I saw as a Thanksgiving turkey bowl match. And I'm like, conflap it. I was like, damn it, I thought we escaped this shit. Alrighty, so for those of you who are unaware, TNA, as much as we love them having some of my favorite match stipulations, I love me some Full Metal Mayhem, I love me a Monsters Ball match. They've also had some really stupid gimmick matches, and this is one of them. So this Turkey Bowl match, what happens is that basically this Thanksgiving Turkey Bowl match is the equivalent of whoever loses the Predictions League for TNA and has to wear this wrestling singlet for a week of reviews. The person who gets pinned in this match and is ultimately the loser has to don a whole entire turkey costume for the entirety of the show and for the next week or 2. So they have to wear this stupid turkey costume and they cannot take it off, cannot remove it until time is up. Otherwise, they will be fined, and other bad things tend to happen to people who try to get out of it early. With that being said, I'm looking at this lineup. And as much as I think it would be fucking hilarious to watch Hammerstone walk around as a giant roided out turkey, I think that Joe Hendry is going to win this thing because we also need to give this man a win. And I think I honestly, personally, I would love to see Brian Myers in that turkey costume because it'd be fucking hilarious. But I think John Skyler's getting in this turkey. So I was like, yes, we are here for Short King Turkey John Skyler. But regardless of who gets pinned, I have picked Joe Hendry to win this match. I feel like Joe kind of needs to win this one.
Agreed.
I just hate it that this is the match that we have to give him a win in.
I know. Yeah.
Will, This is a chance to express how you feel.
You know, I feel it's a little humiliating, I think, for Joe Hendry, if he was to lose this and have to do that, I would be so angry. And it's not because, I like Joe Hendry so much, or I'm like, the Joe Hendry fan club. It's just like the man's been through the hell and back. I mean, he's done his due. Can we stop hazing him now? I mean, truly, can we stop hazing him and give him a win? Even if it's a ridiculous match like the Turkey Bowl match. I mean, even though that's kind of a slap to the face too. It's like, oh, you can't win the championship, but you can win the freaking Turkey Bowl. I'm just like, oh, Jesus criminy. So yeah, this match, I'm not looking forward to this match at all. And I mean, it's gonna be fun. It is. It's gonna be a funny match. But if Joe Hendry does not win this match, I'm gonna be so mad.
I think I'll be more mad if he loses.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll be furious if he loses.
And who knows? I might get an explicit worded voice memo or text message from Will.
Probably.
Which is not a good thing because Will is a good boy. He doesn't curse on this channel. What are you crazy?
Not at all.
How dare you? He's a good, clean Christian boy.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. My mouse wanted to move on too because for a while I noticed it was on the next match we going to talk about. My mouse was like, nah, stop talking about this. You know this is stupid. Move on. And I'm like, all right, we'll move on. But I picked Joe Hendry. That is the bottom line.
Yep, me too.
All righty. This also makes me sad, but not for the reasons that you might think. I know Laredo Kid doesn't stand a chance. And, I still think the match is going to be good because Moose is fantastic. Laredo Kid is fantastic. But this is for the TNA X Division Championship. This is also an easy pick for me. I got Moose retaining. There is no freaking way that he is losing this championship. But then again, TNA has done crazier things to me this year. But I have Moose retaining here. I don't think he's losing it quite this soon.
No, I agree. I don't think he's going to lose it here. Not at all. As much as I hate saying Moose, he's going to retain. I mean, I can't imagine the Laredo Kid's going to come in and take that from him. I really can't.
No, it's just a match to have a match at, Turning Point, which I'm okay with. Now, like I said, though, if this leads to Leon Slater feuding with Muse for a little bit, then I'm here for that one. Because I think honestly, I want to see Leon with the championship in some capacity in 2025 for TNA. So I think Leon Slater would be a great choice to carry the X Division since Speedball Mike Bailey's no longer in the company. Anyways.
No.
Well, actually, no. Even Trent Seven as X Division champion would be kind of baller.
Yeah.
So, again, we both have picked Moose. We're pretty much on the same page for most of this. This is going to be great. This needs to be the main event. I'm just putting it out there, TNA.
I agree.
This should be the main event because you cannot have these two goats of the Knockouts division, wrestle a 2 out of 3 falls match and for it not to main event. But I digress. This is for the TNA Knockouts World Championship. This is a 2 out of 3 falls match. This is also, look at this picture of Masha. Like, she just is such a badass in this photo. Like, yes, this is what I'm here for. And Jordan is also a badass in this photo too. But we have our Knockouts World Champion, Masha Slamovich, taking on Jordan Grace in a rematch for the TNA Knockouts World Championship. Honestly, this is probably my most anticipated match of the whole entire card. I am super excited for this match. And I think they are going to go 1-for-1. And then in the final fall, with the tied record, I have Masha Slamovich winning 2-1 and retaining the TNA Knockouts World Championship. But I am ready for these two women to dominate my television screen.
Oh, yeah. I am in complete agreement with you. I think, and we were talking again, I think we were talking offline about it, I think that this is Jordan's last hurrah. I think she's going to come in. She's fighting her friend. I think it's going to be a great fight. I think they're going to come after each other. I think it's going to be a well done at the end. And I think Grace is going to be like, sayonara, adios, ciao, and exit
Right
the
off into the
building
sunset.
stage left. Yes.
Right off into the sunset.
Yeah.
I agree with you here because it feels like that's what we're building up to for a lot of folks. I mean, Bailey's contract is up. Jordan's contract's coming up soon in January. Josh is also almost done with his current contract, so we'll see if he wants to stay with TNA or go somewhere else. But yeah, I think we are on the final chapter of Jordan Grace's stint in TNA, unless she decides to resign, which I wouldn't be upset about. But I would kind of like to see Jordan go on to the next stage of her career. Honestly, if she goes over to NXT, I'm not going to be upset because for some reason she fits so well in NXT, and it offers something that, especially with the incredible stacked women's roster in NXT that we have now with like the likes of Julia and Stephanie Vaquer and Zarya, like Jordan fits in perfectly there. And I think it would be great. But again, this is my most anticipated match for Turning Point. I'm super excited for this. Me and Will have both picked Masha Slamovich to retain her championship, which leads us into our final match for Turning Point, which is probably going to end up being the main event as the TNA World Championship tends to be. Nick Nemeth versus Eddie Edwards. Nick's winning. Like, this is a given. I swear if Eddie wins, I will have so many questions, TNA. I will have so many questions. I was like, who's blackmailing you? Who's blackmailing you?
I mean, if Eddie Edwards, there's no way. There's no way. No way, again, unless shenanigans happen. No way.
I double down, and I, like my favorite cartoon, I will eat my own shorts if Eddie Edwards ends up winning.
Yeah, there's no way. There's just no way.
No. So I got Nick winning this one. I don't think Nick's losing.
I do too. I don't think Nick's losing this.
Oh my goodness. It's crazy enough too, because Eddie Edwards finds himself in a pretty precarious position in a high match on the card too. Because last year, remember, Eddie fought Will Ospreay at Turning Point last year when it was in the UK.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, Eddie, you are such a reliable talent. And we and Will do think you are a phenomenal wrestler. But there is no way in hell that you are beating Nick for this title.
No way. I mean, no way. I mean,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, no way. I just literally was like, nah.
I was just like, nah, this is an easy pick. Nick's going to win. Right, TNA?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness.
I'm right? I better damn well be right.
It better be. Oh my goodness. And with that brings us to the end of our predictions for Turning Point. So let's get back to our normal setup really quickly. So 10-second ad break.
Yeah. Here we go.
I love that. It's so fantastic. But now that we are back in the home studio, so to speak, this has been our TNA Takedown Troupe review for the week. And we also did our predictions. So, as stated before, we will be going dark next week. So, no TNA review, unfortunately, next week. But to fear not, because on Sunday, December 1st, as of right now, myself, Will, and Andrew, who, you saw last night with me hanging out with GCW review stuff, the three of us will be back on Sunday, December 1st to review Turning Point, as well as me going mad because the night before we'll be doing Survivor Series for WWE Watch Along, which is going to be crazy in itself. But we will be going dark next week for the Thanksgiving holiday, but we do still have some content coming out in the next 4 days. Tomorrow evening, you can find myself, Adolfo, Alice, and whoever else wants to show up. We will be doing a live watch along for AEW Full Gear. Their Big 4 pay-per-view, the last one in the year, is about to get crazy. The matches look like a lot of fun. And that's going to be a really good time on Saturday. Sunday evening, myself, the Professor, and Minnie will all be here to review WWE and the Dual Dynasty review, which we'll also be doing our predictions for WWE Survivor Series War Games. And then later in the evening, myself and Andrew will be doing a live watch along for GCW Bloodsport, which is the annual MMA wrestling combination event, and it is going to be fantastic. There's lots of TNA talent that's going to be in there. We have Masha Slamovich fighting Jody Threat, which is going to be a baller match. We have, newly to TNA, Miss Li Yang Lee in action there. Mike Bailey and Josh Alexander are also throwing down at Bloodsport. I'm like, gimme. Like, that match is also going to be baller. So, spoiler alert, I'm going to try to convince Will to join me and Andrew, but not really, because I know he's got busy things to do. But maybe he can pop in. I definitely at least have him watch it later, because I think it's worth it. Then on Monday, we will have the AEW Full Gear review, where we review the pay-per-view. And then we close out Thanksgiving week next week on Tuesday with the GCW Bloodsport review. And then we take a little bit of a break by going dark, enjoying the holidays, and then we'll be back to the madness that is the content, because Saturday, November 30th is the live watch-along for WWE Survivor Series War Games, which is about to be fun.
What was that?
That was my horrible William Regal impression.
Okay, I was just like, what just happened?
This is why I'm not a theater person, you guys. I'm horrible at it. But anyways,
No.
I digress.
It was just funny. I was like, what was that?
Yeah, War Games. I can't do the British accent. William Regal is the only person who can do War Games correctly. But we are going to get up on out of here. So thank you so much for tuning in to another Takedown Troupe review. Will, it has been a pleasure to have you this evening. I have missed you so dearly, and I am happy I get you back for a little bit. Before more madness happens in the world of theater. But for myself, Will, and the rest of the BC WrestlePod family, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay iconic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We'll catch you later tomorrow for all the madness of the next 4 days. But until then, sayonara, adios, and we'll talk to you later. But of course, Billy Stark's outro. And Frankie Kazarian is a douche. We're out of here.